All right, and now we are also live on YouTube and LinkedIn Live. So welcome to everybody joining us from there as well. Hello, Maria to Argentina, and hello, Peter to Czech Republic. And hi, Henry to Colombia. Good to see everybody. Oh, and hi, Pedro to Brazil. All right, we had 2 minutes left, and hello to everybody also joining us on LinkedIn Live and YouTube. So let's get our presentation started. So once again, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where in the world you're zooming in from. And welcome to this first LF Decentralized Trust member webinar. It's great to have you here, and we are looking forward to this exciting topic. First, I would like to emphasize that everybody is welcome in our community, and we are striving to create a safe and welcoming environment for everybody. And so please follow our code of conduct, which you can find on our website and on our wiki as well, when interacting with each other on this webinar or more generally in our LF Decentralized Trust community as well. Just some general housekeeping rules. The same as with previous Hyperledger webinars, the LF Decentralized Trust webinars are held under the Linux Foundation antitrust policy. And to find out more about the policy, you can go to our website and on our wiki, and you can read it there. This session is being recorded, so you can always return back to YouTube on our member webinar channel and rewatch the recording if you missed this live session. If you go to our webinar library at LF Decentralized Trust, you will be able to see both the recording as well as the slides that Gladstone will be sharing today. Finally, we encourage these sessions to be interactive and engaging. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the raise your hand button and you will get unmuted and you can speak up. And at the end of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions. You can also use the Q&A box at the bottom, and then we will either type the question or answer it live as well. And as well, you're obviously also welcome to use the chat button to ask your questions as well as add any comments you might have. Now, without further ado, I'm really glad to introduce Gladstone Arantes Junior, who is a blockchain specialist at Brazilian Development Bank, and he will be talking about Brazil Blockchain Network, which is a public permissioned blockchain for public value and trust. Gladstone, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Tomás, it's always very good to talk to you, and to be talking about RBB is always a pleasure as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's go to that questions that everyone has been used to. Can you see my slides? Can you hear me?
Yes, looks good, and we can hear you.
So very good. We're going to have something around, let's say, 40 minutes to talk from now. So as I said before, it's a pleasure to talk about RBB. It's Brazil Blockchain Network. In Portuguese, is Rede Blockchain Brazil. It's a somewhat different kind of blockchain. People don't hear too much about public permission blockchains, and we're going to try to understand how we got here and why we're doing what we're doing. So first of all, I have to talk a little about the history, where everything started, because understanding where it started explains a lot about the nature of the initiative. And everything started in an innovation contest. In 2017, BNDES, that's where I work, is the Brazilian Development Bank. It's a federal state-owned bank. It's a different kind of bank. It's more like World Bank and IDB, something more like this, KfW from Germany, for example. And we had this innovation contest. We could at that time join with at most 5 people and make a proposal about an idea to improve the bank in various ways. At the time, our elevator pitch was this: to tackle the implosion of trust. Implosion of trust is the headline of the executive summary of the Trust Barometer research. That is a research that's prepared for by Edelman every year since 2000, and it's about trust, not trust only in governments, but trust in governments, in companies, NGOs, media, etc. Trust at all in society. In 2017, this was the headline. And now in 2024, it's not a surprise for anyone anymore that we still live an implosion of trust. It was detected at the time. And what we tried to show to people at the time in the contest is that it was that internet had a lot to do with the implosion of trust. Social networks, and it's not new for anyone, but at the time it was more or less debatable, the role of social networks in this implosion of trust. And what we said is that if internet gives you a problem, maybe it has a solution to propose to you as well. And blockchain, what does blockchain have to do with it? Because blockchain is the trust machine. Okay, we have the possibility of having trustless trust. Trustless trust is this: you can trust the computation that is being executed by the network without having to trust anyone in particular. So we don't have to trust people. No, people are not trustworthy. That's what the culture seems to be heading on, right? People don't trust other people, only the ones that are very similar to yourself, right? And it's getting more and more polarized somehow. And if you have a technology that deliver to you a trustless trust, so it can be something very important for governments, because governments, in democracies at least, they depend of trust. This is not an imposing regime, so you have to have trust from people. If not, you don't have democracy, of course. So that was our, let's say, elevator pitch. But what did we propose specifically at the time? I am not talking about RBB now. I'm talking about the history. We proposed 2 initiatives, but the ideas behind RBB are already contained in what I'm explaining here. We have an initiative together with KfW that I talked about a little earlier. KfW is the Development Bank of Germany, and they are one of the donators of Amazon Fund. That is a fund that is managed by BNDES. The use of the money is controlled by BNDES. So they are the donators, one of the donators. And they had this solution using permissioned private blockchain to track the resources they donated at the time. It was not built for BNDES. It was not built for Amazon Fund. It was a generic tool. And we said, okay, let's use this in Amazon Fund. And they got very excited. And we implemented that in 2018. But we had another proposal that were, let's say, bolder somehow. That was BNDES token. BNDES token was a solution for public blockchain, Ethereum blockchain. At the time, 2018, it's a lot of time, right? In 2018, no one knew about Ethereum. People knew a little, were starting to hear about Bitcoin at that time, at least in Brazil. And what we proposed to make our disbursements through a token. So this token would be sent to our clients, and those clients will use the token to buy everything that was contained in the contract with the BNDES, because the clients cannot buy anything they want. It's not regular a disbursement. We have a contract to be. We give the money for building a factory to use to preserve Amazon forest or something, and the client will use this token to make the purchase of what they wanted, they needed, and the supplier would receive the tokens and make the to send the token back to BNDES to get the real at the end. Okay, it was, we were not creating money. It was not the idea. The idea is having this flow of money being transparent to everyone, to absolutely everyone in real time. And more, in my opinion, more important than transparency, because transparency we already had at that time. All the disbursements were in the BNDES homepage, okay? But this is different because you have trust. Why do you have trust? Because in blockchain you have the compliance by design, right? We know that the rules that are in the smart contract that implement the token, they will be executed as is, independent of our wish. Everything is there, okay? All the controls are transparent. All the execution respects the rules, and that was what we were interested about, okay? So this is the very initial ideas that led us to RBB. Why I say this? After we implemented those initiatives, we have lots of opportunities to make national and international connections. And those were really important. Why? Because 2019, we organized a workshop here in BNDES in which we got together lots of public institutions, public administration bodies, research institutes, universities, and we got together to talk about blockchain, to use of blockchain governance. And what we saw was that every application in government got to the development of a network as well. So you have a use case, you have a network. Another use case, another network. It's not cost effective, of course. You have to build many networks, and they don't talk to each other. Now we're having the initial solutions for integrating blockchains, but at that time it even didn't exist, almost didn't exist. And we are not, we are duplicating costs. We had problems for reusing solutions. We could have, for example, a solution for identification, and it would not be reused in other networks. And more important for me, everything was private blockchain. Private blockchain is good. It's good for, efficiency is very good. But for governments, in my opinion, the real revolution is the transparency. It's public blockchains. And the international connections that we had at the time made us to know some public permissioned networks at the time. For example, the ones that are in the slide, LockChain, for example, is a network, the public permission network, led by IDB, the International Development Bank. That is a public blockchain for Latin America, okay, for business. Another one that exists is European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, EBC. That is a blockchain for integrating the states of European Union. And Alastra is another blockchain from Spain. So we learned that that could be this kind of blockchain. Because using total public blockchain for government is not easy. It's not regulated. You have to buy cryptocurrency to operate. It's very difficult. In civil law in Brazil, civil law is like this. You can do whatever is not stated clearly in the law that you cannot do. This is civil law. In public law, is the opposite. You cannot do anything except what is written in the law. So public law that regulates the actions of government bodies are very restrictive. So having a public permission blockchain could be a way of making governments using public blockchains. That's what we understood, and it was important for everyone, for me in particular. So we understood together that having a Rede Blockchain Brazil, Brazil Blockchain Network could be a very good thing for government as a whole. So building a network like this is not only building an infrastructure. We have to have a legal infrastructure, because as I said before, we need to have some legal instrument to say that we can work together. So we have to solve this legal problem, this legal layer, let's say. And we have to solve the governance layer, because we have to take decisions together, right? So we have to take decisions together. So we need to define how we are going to take decisions together. So we have a governance layer. And then we have an infrastructure layer. And over this infrastructure layer, we need to have an operation layer, because this network has to be operated somehow. And these processes are not executed for one institutions only, but for all institutions collaboratively, right? So, you have to solve the problems of all those 4 layers. Every application before RBB should solve all those layers, and then you can have your application. So with RBB, we solve the 4 layers, and the innovator can come with his or her application. So it makes things much easier. One thing that someone may question is this: you're talking about trustless trust, but when it comes to blockchain, this trustless trust comes from 2 sources: cryptography, of course, and decentralization. What is a decentralization in a public permission blockchain? In RBB, decentralization is institutional variation. Our goal is having representatives of all the powers of the Brazilian government, Brazilian state. You have legislative representatives, we already have. Executive representatives, we already have. And judiciary, we still don't have, but we're aiming to have some judiciary participants, right? And you have all the layers of the federal governments, right? You have federal government, you have state government, and you have municipal governments. We really would like to have representatives of every layer of the public administration, and we have already that. And of course, representatives of private sector. So when you have this mix of different participants, each of them with different interests. Some states, for example, are governed by different parties. They are, sometimes adversaries. So this is where the decentralization effect comes from, right? And we're working strongly to have this working like that. We have variations of power inside the network, because in public permission networks, the disagree creates agreement. The trust comes from the disagreement. That's what we're trying to do. Now we have a MVP that was launched now in August, the last August, okay? We have federal executive representatives, as I said before. BNDES is one of them. We have DataPrev and Serpo, 2 companies that are service provider of IT in the level, federal government level. We have a federal legislative representative. There is a Code of Accounts, the Federal Code of Accounts. A Code of Accounts is a body from the legislative, the federal legislative. We have representatives of state and city layers. We have Minas, that is a state. We have a Maranhão, that is a state. We have another state coming to the network, but I cannot say still which state, but we have the third one. And we have a municipality that is Araguaína, that is a state of Tocantins, that's another state. And you have representatives of the academic and research institutions. We have RNP, the CPQD, that is another member of Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust, it's an observation, and PUC-Rio, there's a university here from Rio de Janeiro. And the purposes of RBB, as I said before, are public interest innovation. So you see that we broaden the scope somehow a little to public interest, not only government processes, okay? So we are open to use cases that is not limited to government processes, and trustless trust, because trustless trust, as I said before, and I think people don't give enough attention to this. Trustless trust for governments is a requirement, is a core value. We have to solve this trust problem, and I'm not saying that RBB is going to solve all the problems, but is a step in the right direction. That's what we're trying to do. And we have the agreement. Explain a little more how RBB works. We have the agreement. We developed a framework for governance, okay, that tries to identify the things, the issues that we have to solve, the things that we need to develop to make the whole thing works operationally, in fact. From this, we developed the governance layer. Okay, we have a regulation on how the decisions are taken, a voting scheme, 2 committees, and executive committees that takes care of drivers and resources, etc. And a technical committee that technical steering, high-level operation, and try to manage the technical initiatives that happen inside the network. And we have these collaborative initiatives, right? We have the Kanban, and we monitor the initiatives that are, the network is not totally built. We're in an MVP now, a pilot, let's say. And we have operations protocol, because as I said before, there is no one alone that's responsible for solving incidents, for monitoring the network. So we have to have an agreement among the participants, how to monitor each other, what are your compromises, what are our agreement when we need to solve an incident, because an incident that's happening in your house can affect my house, all right? So there are a lot of operations protocol. And it's funny somehow, it's very new. Decentralized operations of a network that made mostly of government bodies is something I can say is not exactly ordinary. It's not something that's happening everywhere. It's something innovative, I can say. And this framework, just a little about the framework. It's based in the meta framework that you have, if you have to deal with something, let's say here is a blockchain. It could be a application server, it could be database, everything. You have to make evolution possible, of course. You have to operate those things, and you have the infrastructure over the thing is built upon, and you have a governance and management layer. So from this simple idea, we construct the operations protocol to solve the operations group of components. We have the collaborative initiatives to solve the evolution components. You have the governance that we developed and many more things that we try to solve in the project. I'm not going to go deep in these components. They are in Portuguese, in fact, if you say, but just to say that we have lots of operational activities and collaborative initiatives activities as well to solve all those things that are written here. One day we can talk more about it. Some technical highlights. We use Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. Is not Hyperledger anymore, right? Besu. Besu is Ethereum virtual machine compatible public and permissioned client. It's also used in Brazil's CBDC, that it's known as Drax. Drax is the CBDC of Brazil, a very important, very interesting project is being led by Central Bank of Brazil. And the Ethereum virtual machine, and Besu in particular, is the same technology that Drax is using. It's the same technology that Blockchain was using, to be honest, and even European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, EBSI, is also EVM compatible, but I'm not totally sure that it's Besu, but it's EVM compatible. I think that public permissioned blockchains are going mostly EVM compatible. It makes sense, a lot of sense. Anyone can audit the ledger without permissioning or even identification. We have the script for you. If you want, you that watching me here, you can go run your own node, and connect to the network to audit. Now you can do it now, right? The scripts and the instructions are in our GitHub. But if you really don't believe anyone, you can run your own node. You just have to know which addresses we use, or what addresses of our nodes, and it's totally possible. You can do it by yourself, but we made some scripts to make your life easier if you're not that distrust person. But you can connect. You don't have to say anything to anyone. No identification, no permissioning, just do it. You can audit, and that's what's beautiful about it. You can see what's going on network, and as applications are deployed in this network, you can see with your own eyes what's going on there. No crypto need to pay transactions. It's a gasless network, okay? I'm not saying that it's not going to be paid to make transactions to the network. It's going to be paid somehow. You have to access the network to make transactions, deploy smart contracts through another participant, through a participant of the network. Something that I can speak a little more later. This is a decentralized network governance and operation, as I said before. No one is the center. And it's not exactly like that in other networks, even the public permission networks, okay? And what's the incentive to a participant to be in the network? To share the gas of the network. Every participant have a space, amount of gas to be used in the network. So this is the incentive of participation. And the participant can use that space to run their own use cases. But they can sell that amount of gas, okay? It's allowed to sell the amount of gas to someone else, although the applications that can be run in RBB have to have public interest, right? This is not for CryptoKitties and etc. I'm not saying that CryptoKitties is not good or bad. I'm just saying that's not for fun. It's for public interest. That's what it is. This restriction that we have is this one. And the governance is going to guarantee this requirement. Oops, let's go. Okay. Just another technical slide. Some words in Portuguese, some words in English. It happens all the time. So we have a nucleo, a core of a network. These yellow nodes here, that are the validators. They propose blocks and they validate the blocks of each other. is a proof of authority, so it's voting, in fact. This is the core of the network. And we have two kinds of boot nodes, the white ones here and the blue ones here. Let's start with the blue ones. The blue ones are the boot nodes that protect the core of the network from the nodes that send transactions. The nodes that send transactions are those ones, the writer nodes, okay? So there's a barrier here from the core of the validators and the ones that send networks. This is this role of protecting is made by the boot node, the writer boot node, boot nodes. In fact, there are many. And we have the observer boot nodes. Those are the ones that protect the network, the core of the network, from the observers. Observers are nodes of everyone. Everyone can have an observer, and transactions cannot flow over this node here. Okay, this is high level draw picture of the network, and let's go. Some applications that can run the network. In fact, I like to say that is more or less like your child. You raise your child, you have plans for them, and maybe they're going to do something else, and it may be good in any way, even it's not your plan. So things can go different in the future, maybe. But let's make some examples. For example, digital notarization. Okay, is notarization of information is proving to everyone that a document or of information were not tampered with, right? This alone is what is revolutionary for governments. Can you see? Because public databases, government databases, are managed by government. So, okay. Of course, we know that there are a lot of controls exist, etc. But do people know that? Okay. In the end, the owner, not exactly owner, but the owner of the database can do whatever he or she wants, right? At least people think this is like that. It's not exactly easy like that, but okay, you can believe this. And if you have blockchain, centralized one, that no one is the only owner, you can do this. You can do this, okay? So digital notarizations alone is a revolutionary use case in my view. But transparent public spending, that is a flavor of notarization. It's not notarization of money somehow, right? But transparent public spending, knowing where the money is being used, being sure of the destination of the money, and being sure that the rules that are in the smart contract are being respected. This is so much a revolution, especially in countries in which trust is even more problematic than in the developed countries, right? This is the case of Brazil. And this is the case of some big democracies. I could cite, India, Bolivia, Mexico, or something, right? And I think this is totally amazing to have this. Okay, so let's go. And public permission is this. You have when we talk about blockchains, you have two axes. You have public and private. Can you read? Can you audit what's happening there? If you can, public. If you cannot, private. And to have permissioned and permissionless. Okay, permissionless is everyone can participate in the network. Everyone can send transactions to the network. It's permissionless. Permissioned is no. Not everyone can send transactions. Not everyone can participate of the consensus of the network. When we think this way, you have public permissionless blockchain. It's Ethereum, it's Bitcoin, you have cryptocurrencies, you have decentralized finance, you have NFTs, those things that everyone is using about. When you have private permissioned blockchains, what we have is integration. And this is amazing, right? Because integration of uh, kind of enterprises and institutions that could have problems of integrating their systems, that now is possible with blockchain technology, but no one accepting themselves know what's going on that network. Okay, this is what was happening in use of blockchain in Brazilian government and governments, if you take the states, the municipalities, etc. And public permission networks are about notary service, are about uh, uh, transparency of expenditures, and diplomas, for example, is public permission blockchain, because it makes more sense, this kind of, we are trying to create the opportunity to take the government from the permissioned private to those other possibilities. And in private permissioned blockchain, it's about organization, it's about efficiency. And in public access of the blockchains, it's about people, it's about trust. That's what you're trying to do, right? And talking again about trust, let's go back to that implosion of trust that I was talking about before. It was a research of 2017. Did it got better with the time? Absolutely no. Now we have the distrust, the same distrust, and polarization. So it got worse. This is the research from last year, okay? And only 30% of people would help those who think differently. And this is real problem, right? There's no democracy when you don't want to talk to other people. And this is not the first time it happened in history. And now I'm starting to go beyond RBB, and I beg the pardon of my colleagues in RBB, because I'm going to use this presentation for some opinions of myself that I can look forward and see, okay, we are trying to solve the problem of basic trust. Now, the trust in operational processes of government, where the money is going. Do you trust the queue of organ transplant? Things that are very important for big but somehow dysfunctional democracy like Brazil. I cited India, Bolivia, Mexico, etc. Other countries probably could be cited as well. But we have this in Europe and in the United States and North in Canada, etc. The problem of mistrust, of distrust, is new. For our countries, is not new. It has always been this way. Okay, but the level of distrust that you have sometimes is operational. People don't trust anything. Okay, and I see that you're going to come more similar to us. No? So let's take a talk, right? Let's talk. And this is not the first time it happened. Okay, this big distrust. Every time a new way of communication, especially the communication that makes everyone be a communicator and a receiver, a sender and a receiver of the message. Every time it happened, the system in place got trouble. Gutenberg invented the printing press in the 15th century, and you probably knew what happened, right? Europe got in a very strong polarization at the time. There were fake news, for example. You live in America. Those of you that live in America, this is a big fake news, right? America. Why America? It should be called Colombia, right? Because it was Columbus that found our continent, not Americo Vespuccio. Americo Vespuccio being the discoverer of America is a fake news. And if you know what was the most sold book at the time after the invention of printing press, was a manual for hunting witches. Okay, it was not the Principia Mathematica of Isaac Newton, right? This is something that I learned with Yuval Noah Harari with this newer book, and I have this perception. This is not going to get better as well, because after social networks we have AI, and after AI we will have IoT, and after IoT we will have multiverse, metaverse, and after metaverse we will have connections together directly of our brains to the machines. So this complication of the talk, the revolutions of way of communication will happen again and again and again, faster and faster. So I'm not sure if all the disruptions that we are seeing in the markets are not going to happen to liberal democracy. So I have to do something about it, right? And I see people talking about decentralization, and yes, that's what happened. And it was one of the solutions that happened in the transition from absolutism to illuminism, right? It was decentralization. But I see people talking about decentralization, and you have to remember, decentralization is not always about increasing resilience. Sometimes it's fragmentation. When Roman empire crashed, it was the decentralization as well. And it was not exactly good, right? So we have to, and we have new challenges, because now we have the possibility to have data tyrants. Because maybe the first time in history when a tyrant, and there are a lot of tyrants around the world, a tyrant can have the data of their citizens and can process the data and take, efficient decisions. And it's probably be very difficult to get those tyrants out of the power. And they are very good competitors against democracies, right? That's what I was talking about. We may have centralized, efficient, and good decisions now, because it's another idea from Harari. In the competitions among capitalist societies, capitalist and democratic societies against socialist and centralized authoritarian societies, the central processing of those societies were one of the biggest reasons for their not being successful. But now we can have this dystopian situation, okay? And what we are living now, many authors are talking about, it's the techno-feudalism, okay, in the Occident. Techno-feudalism is what we are living. I'm not going to detail exactly what it means. It's to another presentation, maybe in the future. I have just to talk about it because I cannot avoid. And if you're thinking, what the hell this dragon is doing in this in this image, I say to you, it's because all those images, almost all those images, were generated by AI, and the AI got in its head that feudalism has to do with dragons, probably because of Game of Thrones. You know that we are submitted somehow to AI, and now, not in the future. And what we have here, when you talk about blockchain, is not decentralization as a solution for this problem. Is not only blockchain, it's a mindset. It's about decentralization, it's about cryptography, it's about transparency. And of course, we have to build narratives. That's what I'm trying to do here in the end of this presentation, right? Because blockchain has a lot to do with things that are in the heart of societies. Register are in the beginning of the societies. We have this clay tables, for example. We have code is law, and smart contracts. You have CBDCs, etc. These are core values, core concepts of states, and blockchain has a lot to do with those things. And so it may change a lot how things are done. And we have already some initiatives of using AI to participate in democracy talking. We have a candidate, for example, in the last elections for parliament in England that had a AI candidate. It was AI Steve. And in Brazil, Tabata Amaral is a candidate for mayor of São Paulo. She has Rita is I don't know exactly what Tabata Amaral. Okay, it's a robot. Yes, robot interactive Tabata Amaral, something like that. So what they are trying to do, they are trying to use AIs as mediators of the talk with the public. And I think this little concept getting bigger, if you think that decentralized AIs, because these things are being built by many people, right? Decentralized AIs can be audited. We can discuss the data that are going to be used to train them, for example. We can have the first time in the story that you have an intelligent but not self-interested agent to help us to have the conversation that democracy requires. So again, talking about Harari is worried about we giving the decision to the AI. And he's right. We should not do this, at least not easily like that. But you could use those same tools to mediate the talk, because they have not self-interest. If you can have this mediator somehow, digital twins that represent your opinions, and mediators that negotiate with the different political parties, etc. Maybe we have something more than just solve the problem of basic trust. We could help to solve the problem of trust about decisions. Okay, but you have to have a wisdom to do that, and not just let things happen. We have to build this. Okay, so AI plus blockchain, we can have we have a techno-feudalism, maybe we can build a crypto-illuminism, but it's another talk. And I believe, I have the hope that Brazil can lead this talk somehow, because as I said before, distrust is much older here. So as inflation, when we solved inflation in Brazil, we created a very robust financial market. Maybe if you solve the basic problem of operational trust, we can help to solve the problem of democracy trust for the world. Why not? And people, thank you very much for your attention. This is the repository in GitHub of RBB, the first QR code. Please, you can go there. It's in Portuguese, but now we have robots that make the translation for us very easily. I will appreciate if you visit our GitHub. And we have now a Discord. Sorry, my LinkedIn here. I accept connections. And thank you very much for your attention. That's all for today, my friend Thomas. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gladstone. It was a very interesting talk, and I see there's a lot of comments and questions, actually. So,
really?
Yeah, just let me see first if anybody would like to get off mute to ask Gladstone anything in person. Otherwise, we can go to our comments. Let me just see any hands up. No, not so far. Okay. All right, Gladstone, if you go to Q&A, you can see there is one question from Maria there, and then in the chat, you can find additional questions.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm the chat of the webinar. A lot of things reading here. I don't know where to start.
You can try with the Q&A box, Gladstone. You see it's the left of the chat.
Q&A box. No, it's not chat of the webinar? No, it's another one. Okay.
Next to a
so
chat,
to publish an app, there is an approval process, right? Is this the Maria Munaro?
Yeah. Maria Munar.
Okay, Maria. Yes, it's like this. There's an approval process. This approval is by the governance of the network, the committee executive committee. Sorry, and the basic requirements are those. It has to have public interest, and we are very worried about the data protection law of Brazil. Data protection law of Brazil is very similar to European one, so we're very worried about it. Those are two of the biggest requirements. So yes, to send transactions and to implement smart contracts, you have to have permissions. In my wishes, what I wish is to have something that could be more automatic. For example, you could have some open source solution, for example, if it would be possible to have some more open solution for that, it would be amazing. I'm thinking every day about how to make this more open, but it's not easy. We have to be very, very careful. If not for other reasons, for the reason I said before, data protection law. If you have some problem of data protection, for example, everyone is in trouble in the network. So being government bodies, you have to be very, very careful about this. But the path we would like to follow is making the network open and more open, if you can do this. But it's not easy. It's a construction of medium and long term, I think. But thank you for your question.
Thank you, Gladstone. And I see there's another question just inside now.
Okay. You mentioned the Brazilian CBDC, which is running on a separate blockchain. Do you plan to interoperate with it? If yes, how? Yes, somehow. We started this conversation recently. This is different network. The requirements are very different because in these DRAX is the name of it. In this DRAX solution, they are very worried about privacy. Of course, your money is there, the private money is there. So they have to be very cautious about privacy. And RBB is the opposite. We want public, total transparency, let's say that. So it could not be the same network. And yes, we are starting to talk about interoperation between these networks. We have some wishes of interoperate with other networks. People from Paraguay, for example, has started a conversation with me now. Still, I have not brought this to the committees. And the blockchain, I see at least these 4 interoperations that would be very interesting to RBB. If you're in a public network, it would be amazing to have some bridge to it. Other countries, and Paraguay maybe be one of them. Blockchain, because we have a long story with them. We have to thank people from IDB because they helped us a lot in the beginning, and DRAX. In fact, when we built BNDES token in the beginning, we already said that the last part of making the disbursement, the real disbursement to the supplier, would be one day in the future a CBDC. And we are approaching the time when it's going to be possible. So I'm very happy to say that, yes, we're starting the conversation in the very beginning, but starting this conversation. I see that the delivery versus payment, the financial part of the applications are indirect. But we have, for example, we have carbon credit. You're negotiating the carbon credit, this indirect. But the proof of the carbon avoiding emissions could be in RBB. Okay, so the part that's not financial could be in RBB, and the financial part could be indirect. I think this is very exciting to think this way, and I think they think this way as well. That makes me very happy.
Great, thank you, Gladstone. I think we have time for one more question, if you want to take one from the chat. In the meantime, Maria, yes, the slides will be shared, and you can find it along with the recording in our webinar library, and I'll just adding that to the chat. And yeah, it's going to be available there. And right after the webinar, you'll also be able to see the recording on our YouTube channel.
Cherry, I'm sorry. It moved. I was reading, but it moved. Are your blockchain technology only used in Brazil, or it's working on globalization? Until now, we're just thinking about Brazil. I think that if RBB is successful, it's probably not be reasonable to use the same blockchain for many things. What I see as a possibility is interoperation among blockchains. For example, you have EBSI, that is a blockchain in the European Union. You have blockchain, there's the whole Latin America, and we can interoperate with them. I think this architecture makes more sense than trying to make RBB taking care of everything. I don't think this is a good way, but interoperating is very important. And if you have some role in making international communication valid, or Paraguay that I cited before as well. Okay.
Hey.
So let's see.
Gladstone, I'm very sorry, but we'll have to wrap it up.
Okay, no problem.
It's
because I go speaking until I don't stop speaking. You know me.
It was great, and thank you so much for presenting. And thank you for everybody joining. Yeah, we unfortunately didn't get to everybody's questions, but you saw that Gladstone has shared his contact details, so you're also welcome to reach out later to get your questions answered. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gladstone, for presenting, and thank you everybody for joining this presentation. And as I mentioned to Maria earlier, it will be available, so the recording will be available along with the slides in our webinar library. Now, just before we go, I would also like to invite you to look at our new events page of LF Decentralized Trust to find out more about upcoming webinars, as well as the live events as well. Also, I would like to invite you to visit our meetup page, and you have a linked link over here to find out more about the upcoming meetups, both live and online versions. You're also welcome to look at our new Discord channel, where you can, there's a lot of real-time interaction here. You can find out more about our project, the special interest groups, working groups, and much more. For corporations, we're also inviting you to join us, and you are also welcome to contact us on ecosystem@lfdecentralizedtrust.org, or just click these links and you will be directed to the right way. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again, Gladstone, for this great presentation, and also thank you for everybody watching later on YouTube, and until next time.
Bye, people.